Hello everyone, welcome to VGS Astro. Today I'm going to talk about the ascendant, the first house, the self, your body, mind, and intelligence. And I know that a lot of people have actually spoken about the first house, and there's tons of material available on the first house and what's so great about it and why it is so important. But I wanted to add my 2 pence about the first house, and I also wanted to explore some concepts about the first house alongside this video and related topics in astrology. Now, we all know that the Upachya house is something that grows over time, right? Well, the first house can also be called as an Upachya house, or can it? Because we grow over time. We grow not only physically, but also mentally. We grow in our skills. We improve in our behavior and our civility, in the way we manage things, in the way we solve problems. And despite all that, and despite all indicators of growth, we still don't give first house the status of an Upachya house. And one of the reasons is that it's not necessary that one improves with time with regards to the self, right? The self can also see a decline with time, decline in health, decline in its mental capacity, in memory, and we move from childhood to adulthood to old age. We start hearing less, we start seeing less, we start acting less. So there is a gradual decline in every aspect of life as time passes by. We do improve, but we also see a decline at a later date. But let's not forget, in today's age, when we're talking about reversing our age, going back in time by 20 years or 30 years, changing our biological clock or biological age, resetting them. And while that idea may seem very outlandish today, it may actually become a reality where we are able to see ourselves in an immortal body someday. It's quite possible, right? But I think as of now that's a bit far-fetched. But no doubt we're right now in an age where we can possibly reverse our age, possibly improve with time, possibly change our behavior that can drastically alter every aspect of our life. And let me tell you that this can actually happen when we have planets or large of the Upachya houses placed in the first house, or lords of the Upachya house aspecting the first house. Now, what is the difference between placement and aspect? The difference is that planets placed in the first house are self-sustaining, whereas aspect on the first house is the influence of other people on the self. Regardless of this, more the number of planets positioned or aspecting the Lagna, more the influence of that planet's significations. If there are many aspects on the first house, it's true that the person may have different influences, sometimes even negative influences, but for positive planets, it's definitely going to improve the situation for that person and make it more satisfying. But with negative planets, even the negative planets have a good side to them. Like Rahu and Ketu, they're spiritual planets as well. So if you want to see a catalyst in your spiritual growth, you better catch hold of Rahu and Ketu. And that will make your life a lot more colorful because you're having both material life as well as a spiritual life. You're growing in leaps and bounds. And with the lords of the Upachya house either placed in the first house or aspecting the first house, there is no other choice but to grow with time, to improve yourself with time. And let's not look at the Upachya houses alone. Let's also talk about malefics like the 8th lord looking at the first house or 12th lord looking at the first house. No doubt anyone reading the chart of a person who's got 8th lord aspecting the first house is going to say, oh my goodness, you're going to have a tough time in life, buddy. But let's not forget that 8th lord also brings transformation in the life of that person. And if it's a benefit transformation, it's going to make him a living miracle. How do you think that people go from rags to riches? Look at J.K. Rowling, who used to serve in restaurants. She was divorced. Or I think she got her first divorce probably just before her publication of the book, Harry Potter. But during all that time, she was in a very depressed state of mind. And she kind of used that depression and channeled that negative energy in a creative outlet, in creative writing, where she could get lost in a magical universe. And that could happen when you have 12th Lord aspecting the first house as well, where 12th is about losses and you get lost in your dreams, in your own thoughts, in your imaginations. And look at how fortunate that has made her. So negative planets need not necessarily be feared when it is aspecting the first house. Try to make them less malefic. Try to find remedies that can actually make these lords of the 6th, 8th, and 12th benefic. That can really bring a great amount of transformation in your life. Even those people who have 6th Lord aspecting the first house, maybe you're going to have some difficult diseases to face in your life. But you will face a lot of conflicts in life. 6th Lord is also competition in life. And as time passes by, when it is aspecting the first house, you become very, very competitive. You want to win that race. And before I talk about the aspects of every planet, let me also cover one topic. Everybody knows that every planet aspects the 7th house from its own self, right? So when we have the 6th Lord in the 7th aspecting the Lagna, it does mean that you will face a lot of conflicts in your relationships, in your married life, but it also means that you're going to improve with time. As these conflicts grow, it makes you a seasoned diplomat. It makes you wiser in the way you deal with people. That will make you victorious in your relationships. So as I said, when you have planets in the first house, they're self-sustaining, whereas aspect on the first house is the influence of other people. And when you have Venus in your first house, Parashara actually says that it removes nearly 100,000 defects in your life. And when you have Jupiter in your first house, it is stated that it removes 10 million defects in your life. And any benefic position in the ascendant will give good qualities and a great nature with some really strong foundations. Foundations that cannot be shaken very easily. Whereas negative planets do tend to confuse or give negative qualities or extreme behavior to that person, but it would still end up protecting that person. But the aspects are slightly different because aspects are the influence of other people. And how much you open up to other people will actually give you the result in your life. I mean, the more you open up to a negative person, the more likely that you are to become a negative person. And if you open up to a positive person, you will have every opportunity to actually grow and improve with time. So I'm not saying that it's better to have planets aspecting the ascendant rather than having planets positioned in the first house, not at all. No doubt, planet's position in the first house is also an excellent placement because it gives you a strong foundation. And Jeff Bezos worked from his basement on his online bookstore with a single computer. And when many people came to him and told him that this is an abysmal idea and he should just let it go, he kind of stuck to that idea and he said, no, I believe in this and I'm going to keep going forward and I'm sure I'm going to find success in life. And he believed in himself. And that belief cannot come without a strong planet placed in the first house. Even if you have Mars in your first house, even if all the planets are against you, Mars in the first house will give you tremendous energy, will give you tremendous willpower to keep fighting. So you stand benefited if you have planets in your first house, even malefics in your first house. Especially planets like Saturn, which will give you unwavering devotion to hard work. So never underestimate the planets that are positioned in your first house. They mean a lot. But for those who are having aspects in the first house, even if they don't have planets positioned in the first, you can always check to see if you have any planets aspecting your first. Because without planets in the first or aspecting the first, your life is gonna be a mediocre one. You're gonna see very less ups and downs. You're gonna see very less conflicts in life. You're just gonna run a mediocre life. While living a life filled with conflicts and more problems may sound daunting, when you actually hear someone who says, hey, you're gonna live a mediocre life, it's almost unbearable, right? Nobody wants a boring life. So how can you improve your situation? So one of the ways is when you have planets aspecting your first house, you try and open up to the people planet represents. So in this sample chart, we have Venus and Mercury aspecting the first house through its seventh aspect. Mars aspects the first through its fourth aspect. Jupiter aspects the ascendant through its fifth. But Sun, Moon, Rahu has no aspect, right? No natural aspect. But that's not really true. All planets apart from their seventh aspect also have third, fourth, fifth, eighth, and ninth aspect. But wait a minute. We've all heard that the third and tenth aspect is reserved for Saturn, whereas fourth and eighth is for Mars, fifth and ninth is for Jupiter and Rahu. So why am I saying that every planet has got a third, fourth, fifth, eighth, ninth, and tenth aspect? Because Parashara has actually clued in his work that all planets have these aspects, although in varying degrees. They're not full aspects. The special aspects have full value for only the designated planets. That is, Mars has complete sight in its fourth and eighth aspect. Same is true for Saturn for its third and tenth. Whereas for other planets, the strength of their aspect is the highest for the fourth and eighth, median for fifth and ninth, and lowest for its third and tenth aspect, which means Rahu and Moon will still have 75% of their sight on the first house through their eighth aspect. Whereas Sun will have 75% of its sight on the first through its fourth aspect. So even though you may not have any planets in your first house, you don't have to worry if you have aspects on the first house. But the only thing that you need to do is to open up to the influences that you're receiving from these planets, or remain closed where you think that that planet is only going to create more harm. And in this example, we have Rahu in the sixth house. So what is Rahu? Rahu is obsession. And what is sixth house? Sixth house is your maternal uncle. Now Rahu may be a malefic planet, but he's got skills. He can give you obsession like no other planet. Venus can give you passion, but Rahu gives you obsession. And your maternal uncle can actually motivate you to succeed in life. And I'm talking about Rahu in the sixth in general. Okay. Let's say you have Mercury aspecting the first house. This will give you shrewdness of nature, knowledge of business, trading. It will give you ways to hone your memory, your communication, and mathematical skills. So let's say you want to start a business or be successful in trade. Unless Mercury aspects the 10th house or your ascendant, you're less likely to have a business acumen. If it's in the first house itself, then there's nothing like it. But if you don't have an aspect, then there's less chance of being successful in business. Rahu aspecting the first house will give desires and make a person run after goals of becoming someone that can only dream of becoming. It could be status, it could be money, it could be power. However, with Ketu in the first, a lot of that equation does change. Jupiter aspecting the first would give you a wonderful teacher or mentor in life. It could give you a lot of knowledge and wisdom and also make you respected in your life. You will be interested in religious observations and spirituality. You will have the company of wise people. Venus aspecting the first house would give you a wonderful appearance, a great sense of social and civic manner. It will give you dressing etiquette. It will give you courtesy, politeness, being civil. But yes, Venus is also a teacher and does give you some knowledge about spiritual science. It also can influence you in finance, in accounting, in the law of the land. And Venus also has the ability to make you very wealthy in life because it is the ruler of the second house in the natural zodiac order. If you have Sun aspecting the first house, of course you're going to have very influential and egotistical people breathing down your neck. People who are authoritative, people who are very powerful. And that may even give you some degree of anger and inner fire to have a sense of entitlement in life. On the positive side, Sun will make you bright in your appearance. It will give you a degree of freedom from disease, mostly due to sattvic food habits. It may give you interest in medicine. It may also make you a selfless person. If you have Moon aspecting the first house, you will have blessings of Mother. You will be polite and soft-spoken, and also be influenced to a great degree by the significations of the house that it owns. So in this chart, Moon is the Lord of the fourth, which means you will be influenced by your mother. Not just influenced, you may be controlled by your mother. If Moon is Lord of the 10th, you can be significantly controlled by your career, by your bosses, by your colleagues at work. You will have a sense of service that will come first. If you have Mars aspecting the first, this will give you courage and willpower. It will make you appear youthful. And especially through its fourth aspect, it can conquer yourself, which means you are now in a state where you want to control your mind, your body, your intelligence. You want to have control over the knowledge that you possess. It's about mastering the self, gaining self-knowledge, especially if you have Venus, Mercury aspecting the first along with Mars aspecting it, then it's about mastering the self. Mars is also the master of war, so those working in the field of military or police forces will gain immensely in terms of training and dealing with weapons and strategic planning to win and succeed in life. And what else do we have? We have Saturn. Saturn aspecting the first. Now, Saturn, when it is placed in the first house, it usually gives good results because it protects that house. But when it is aspecting the first house, it may actually give results that deal with struggle and suffering. You may have a low self-esteem, some insecurities in life. But then again, you still have control because it all depends on how receptive you are to the energies of these planets, to the relations that these planets represent. With that being said, the more the planets influencing the first house, the more you're meant to benefit. If you have natural malefics aspecting your first house, like Rahu, Ketu, or Saturn, do also remember to see if that planet is a functional malefic, because that can easily change everything. If Saturn is your Yoga Karaka aspecting the first house, I don't see why he's going to give you only struggles in life. He's going to probably uplift your life in ways that you never imagined. And when Saturn gives, he gives like no other. So also consider exaltation points, debilitation points. There's so much more to discuss about the first house. And it's pretty much impossible for me to cover everything in one video. I probably may do a second one, but I think we've come to the end of this video. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe below. Also give this video a thumbs up. Please share this with your friends and family. And I will see you guys again with another new video very soon.